My party is getting ready to head into Cael Morrow, and we're prepping for it. So let's dig in. Welcome back, everybody. So, before we dive into our session prep, let's talk about how we prepped for Cael Morrow. My party is just getting ready to start the 4th mission for the Library of the Cobalt Soul, and as doing so, they're about to head into Cael Morrow, which is Chapter 5. So, let's talk about what we did with our session prep. So, I've got a link for it in my session notes, but also if you go back to our main page here and then go down to the campaign outline and resources, you can go to quick glances. I actually moved these up. They were at the bottom, and then Chapter 5, The Drowned City. A link for my Notion page will be in the description below if you're interested in checking this out. Here are the notes from the Chapter 5, Drowned City. So we've got a couple different sections that I like to do for each of the different chapters. The first is changes that I'm planning on making from the book. We've got goals, quests, NPCs, secrets and clues, and then magic items and transition. Changes from the book. There are a couple things that I want to do that tailor things to my party. The first is I want Iris to get directions from her patron, which has been the Elixian Aboleth. So things in Cael Morrow may change quite a bit for her. So I need to figure out what I want to do with her if they happen to kill the Aboleth, which is very likely, and how her patron is going to change. So she's Luxemborn, which is kind of cool. So we can maybe have her start to get familiar with one of her past life patrons, so that when the Aboleth does die, or if it dies, her patron will kind of be trying to reach out, break through that. So that's one of the changes we're making. Another one is Olara, who runs kind of an underwater tavern in Cael Morrow, has been there from the beginning, has her memories lost. Maybe a relative of Jimmy. Jimmy hasn't had a lot of spotlight time, so I'm really hoping to lean into that while we get into Cael Morrow, because he is a sea elf. Each player will receive a gift from Coralon when they're at the Temple of the Archheart. They have a vision with Elixian and his past a little bit. I'm also going to have each of them have a vision of their own to give them their own spotlight and to tie them in. I've got to think about this. I've got some time though. And how they got here and how it's been leading them here to help save the Apotheon Elixian. Goals that my party should have, and I should make it clear to them, or hope that this is their goals, right? I can't really control this, but one is to enter the Rift in Cael Morrow, and the other is to help Insight. So Insight will be the first introduction of an NPC here in Cael Morrow. Insight is basically the head of research from the Allegiance of Allsight in Cael Morrow. Hopefully they're willing to help. My party should be. They're pretty friendly with most people. Quests. These I pick up as I'm reading through the chapter just so that I have them and know where they are. Quick reference guides. So there's one from Insight that just wants you to go find more tablets depicting the acts of an ancient hero. They're not sure exactly who it is, but we all know that it is our good friend Elixian. There's another task that they can get from Galio Kirda, who wants them to go and find a clay tablet in exchange for knowledge about the key to the Netherdeep. So the key to the Netherdeep is something that Jamil and others at the Library of the Cobalt Soul, as well as other NPCs, should help them understand. It is important. NPCs, I've got a list, a whole bunch of them. These are just people that they can run into from the book. So there's a guard, a couple of guards here. There's Gortag, Cal, and Nadia. And then we've got Insight, Scribble and Zot. Scribble and Zot hang out with Insight and help her research. And then we've got Olara, who is the sea elf, kind of running a tavern in Cael Morrow. It's probably been pretty lonely for a good long time. Secrets and clues. These are bits of information that I pick up as I am reading through the chapter. And sometimes it's straight from the book, and other times it's like, oh yeah, you need to remind the party about this. Type them down, and we can use these as we do our session prep. Things to lead to the future for my party and things that are important for my party. So I'm not going to read through all of these, but if you're interested, you can pull up the Notion page and find them. Magic items. I like to write these down as I'm reading through the chapter because I go to homebrewery.com and I print out little descriptions of each of the magic items that may be there, and links for this are in the description below. I also go through and add cardstock minis for each of them, so I've got a whole bunch of them. You can find links for these in the description as well. If you're interested in those, download those, print those off, cut them out, and use them as minis. Because we're playing in person, I like to hand out magic items descriptions as my party identifies the magic items. So I've got those. If you're interested, description. And then lastly is the transitions. I want to know how we're transitioning from chapter 5 to chapter 6, and it's pretty straightforward. There should be a real good drive for them to get into the Rift. And if not, the book mentions you can have their faction, which mine is the Library of the Cobalt Soul, push them into that. And I think as part of their goals and the story track of the Library of the Cobalt Soul, they should want to go there anyway, on top of their own curiosity. That's kind of my high-level overview of chapter 5. I have also gone through, and if you go to locations under database, scroll down to Cael Morrow. As I'm going through, I make sure that I have copies of the map of Cael Morrow and then descriptions of everything. And this is just a quick snippet for me so that I can look at it real quick and remember what's going on in each different area. So we've got the overall features, architecture, flooded cavern, the light, the barriers, the keystones. Those are all important here as the keystones are creating the barriers so that the water can't get in. And then in the locations, I've got a quick description of each, who's there, if there's treasure, where the keystone is located. All of that is color coordinated for me so that I can real quick glance, find out what's going on. I've also got lists of any enemies that they may run into. All of that is here for me in case I need it. Before I started the adventure, I read through the entire book at kind of a high level, just kind of understanding the story itself, not really worrying too much about the details. But as I go back and read each chapter by chapter, I make sure that I get all the details in this so that I can know what's going on and know what I want to change and fit my party. Now that we've talked about all of that, let's talk about our actual session prep. Our characters. We have Chosen, our bugbear barbarian. We've got Dimitri, our gnome fighter. Iris, our halfling warlock. Jimmy, the sea elf druid. And Trixie, our human artificer / wizard. Strong start. We are going to have them wake up the next morning sore from the battle of the previous night. A little bit woozy. It's going to be a little bit later in the morning when they wake up. And there's going to be pounding on the door. Question's going to be there and say, hey, Jamil wants to see you. I think he's got you access to Cael Morrow. Come on, stop by later today. Scenes. I expect my party will want to go and talk with the rivals. So I've got secrets and clues for what the rivals have been up to. We've talked about this a number of times already, but they're running the Allegiance of Allsight quest line. Secrets and Clues has all the information that they know. And the rival party has reached out to my party and said, hey, we want to talk to you about what's going on. So I expect my party will want to go talk to them. They're supposed to meet them, I think, at noon. I also have prepared finish the group tournament fights. We talked about that in our last prep video, but I've got actions for all of those pre-planned because it's a lot of people moving parts all at once. So I've got a link to where those are at. If I need to run them, I can just click on this and go. Cobalt Soul Mission 4, the Allegiance Alliance. So my party is going to meet up with the Library of the Cobalt Soul eventually, and Jamil is going to say, hey, I've got you access. Here's some badges from the Allegiance of Allsight. Hang on to these real tight. We want you to go and meet Professor Insight at the Allegiance of Allsight base camp. Earn Insight's trust. Learn how to access the Netherdeep, and then acquire the key to the Netherdeep. Those are the things we want you to accomplish while you're under there. Also, keep your eye out for the spy. If you do so, I've got 1,000 gold for the key. Off they'll go. So I expect my party will probably run into Insight down there. And Insight, we talked about in Chapter 5, is going to want them to go look into the tablets. Go find those tablets that talk more about Alexian. Insight doesn't know that's who it is, but that's what will happen. So I'll probably put a few more notes in here in my prep under the scenes for Insight's mission. But that's pretty much it. I don't expect us to get too much further into Cael Morrow. But if we do, I've got my prep for it, all the little areas. So I think we should be okay. NPCs. We have the rival party, Question, Ewo, Jamil, who are all Library of the Cobalt Soul members. Once they get into Cael Morrow, they can run into some of the guards, who's Gortag, Cal, and Nadia. And then they'll eventually run into Insight, Scribble, and Zot. And there is potential that they may run into Galio Kerda. So we've got links for all of those guys there. Monsters, we have Scholarly Agent, who are the guards, Scholarly Excavators, who are potentially there to help if things go awry. We have Insight Stat Block. We're finally starting to run into more adventure-specific enemies, which should be a lot of fun. So we've got some things that are different, like this Corrupted Giant Shark. We have Galio Kerda, obviously, the Shield Guardian. Swarms of Sorrowfish. There's a ghost that they can run into, and the Scuttling Serpent Maw. I don't expect them to run into anything else much further. I expect them to kind of beeline it straight for their goal in Cael Morrow. Treasure that they may run into. We have Breathing Bubbles, Potion of Water Breathing. They can run into those. With Insight, she can offer them, or they can steal them if they want. My party probably won't steal, but Spell Scroll of Teleport that they can find, and then at the shop with Olara, they can buy a Potion of Healing and a Potion of Heroism. That's kind of what I expect my party to run into this time. I don't expect us to get much further. Print item descriptions, I've got those done. Anything custom to D&D Beyond, I've added, and then cardstock minis, I've got those all printed. And again, if you want those, links for those will be in the description below. I'm really excited to see what's going on in Cael Morrow. I'll let you know how it goes in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And a huge shout out goes to my patrons. Big thank you for the support that you give. We'll catch you in the next one.